Citizens, it's that time. You are officially in Alert Zone. Welcome to the Alert Zone TV. I'm the Wizard Uncle James. I would love for you to become an active citizen in Alert Zone, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button, hitting the bell so you can notify when we drop fire content, giving the video a like, sharing. If you're 18 years of age or older and are able to be legally armed, practice your Second Amendment rights. I'm just going to get down to this. This is going to be a non-2A video. I got my 1911 Bob Cut 45 ACP. I got my M&P Shield 2.0 45 ACP. As you can see, they are empty. I'm going to address something that I was kind of 50-50 about addressing. I didn't do it last season. I wasn't going to do it this year. But I'm going to go ahead and address it. And, if you got sensitive ears or, just stop the video. South Carolina won the NCAA women's tournament. Shout out to them. They completed a perfect season, 38-0. Last year, LSU won the national title game, and shout out to them. In both years, the University of Iowa lost the national title game. It's sad that American hate ruined the NCAA title game for women's 2 years in a row. What do you mean by this, huh? I live in Iowa. I've been up here 14 years. What y'all have been reading in the newspaper for the last 2 seasons is an inkling of what I've been able to see up here from the fans and the different outlets up here throughout last season and this season. I didn't know Iowa had such a good team last year until it was brought to my attention. And, I would hear the fans talking about it and just Caitlin Clark, and I didn't even know who she was. And when I finally got to see her, she was doing the John Cena, You Can't See Me and stuff like that. And, okay, well, she's winning, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then it made me start looking more and more into the female game of college basketball. I watch it from time to time. But for whatever reason, Angel Reese came up in my feed. I had heard a little bit about her. Didn't know a lot about her. But me being a New Orleanian, from the state of Louisiana, I root for LSU Tigers, Yet, when I started reading about this Angel Reese character, lady, I was watching the different words in the sports sections. And I was saying, well, why are they talking about her like that? Well, what has she done like that? So I started doing more research about her. She seemed to be a good player. And as the season progressed, I started seeing more and more write-ups. And the little jabs the little racial undertones that was to it. And I was saying to myself, oh, okay. So, the game last year where Iowa was meeting South Carolina in the Final Four, I believe, I heard a lot of things about Dawn Staley and South Carolina, how they was calling them thugs and hoodlums. And in American lexicon, thug, hoodlum, criminal is just a new way of saying N-word and black. That's the new way. Shout out to Richard Sherman, who pointed that out when he was still playing about the word thug. That's y'all new N-word. Because it only comes out with us. That's just I'm not going to sugarcoat this commentary. Because this is really important to me. I think we need to on other platforms they can have this discussion, but I need to bring this up because I live in Iowa. So I'm going to hear more than those of you who may live outside and only hear the media's take on it. I live here. When that game came, they talked about Dawn Staley and they talked about these girls in South Carolina and called them hoodlums and what have you. And I watched the game. Well, I didn't watch the game, but I found out Iowa won. So, okay. I started reading the write-ups around the country, the sports section. Because as I tell you guys, I don't just read headlines on newspapers and subtitles. I go into the article. And I noticed sports always has had a racial undertone when sports became integrated. When Jack Johnson was knocking people out, they would tell him if he knocked out anybody white, he couldn't celebrate. They passed the Mann Act because of him. You guys already know about that. Muhammad Ali. For those of you who know your sports history, their problem with him was they said he was too cocky. They never said he didn't have skill. He was too cocky and he had a big mouth. But he was backing it up. Michael Jordan is the only sports figure I know that was allowed to kind of gloat and didn't hear nothing about it. The majority of the sports figures that were black were always seen as, when we win, we can't celebrate. We have to be humble. We have to always think about other people. That's fine if it's like that across the board. See, when Caitlin Clark last season was up here doing this, and I would see different posters of her. We got a grocery chain up here called Hy-Vee. She was doing NIL with Hy-Vee last year. They would have her different posters around. I would go to places and see her. And they would all, people would be doing all this at the game and everything. And that's fine. When she did that ring thing to LSU, the crowd erupted. They thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. When they lost that game to LSU last year, and Angel Reese was doing this, American hatred really reared its ugly head because that game turned out not to be about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Unfortunately, it turned out to be about black and white. We couldn't just watch a great game and a good rivalry. We had to watch white versus black. We enjoyed, for those of us who remember, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, we enjoyed watching the Celtics and the Lakers go at it. Larry Bird was a white guy, and all the players talked about how cocky he was and how he would tell people, fuck you, you can't guard me. That's fine. The Celtics won, the Lakers won. Then the Pistons came in. You guys know. But we was treated to, this is strictly basketball. Unfortunately, America's hate that we love to, as Americans, pretend don't exist, reared its head last year. And that game turned into the Lily Pier white girls against the black hood rats. That's what LSU and Iowa represented last year, and it was fucking sad. It was sad that overshadowed that game, even up here. After that game was over and Iowa lost that game, the things that I heard when I went in public and some of the write-ups that I read, everything was about how classless Angel Reese was. That's all it was about. It was classless. It was classless. Kim Mulkey and her little thugs and her little hood rats and what have you. It was just to the point where the same people who was bragging about you can't see me and was laughing when Caitlin Clark was doing this was trashing LSU and Angel Reese in particular, so much to the point that woman started getting death threats. Now, I got a chance yesterday to hear her press conference after they lost the game, the NC tournament game here this year. But it was sad how when they played UCLA, the LA Times, that writer said what a lot of people thought. Stephen A. Smith, I'm just going to call it, he buck danced. He buck danced talking about this was about, school pride. No, it wasn't. That man said what he meant. This was good versus evil. This was, as he put it, forget how he called him, the America's sweethearts versus the dirty debutantes. So much that the white LSU player had to come out and say, Angel don't get to trash talk on the court like I do. I trash talk and I get a totally different response than Angel does. This is a damn travesty. That's why I'm talking about it. That game was marred by a racial undertone last year. When they lost this year, everybody, Emmanuel Acho, he showed his little natural Nigerian behind. Because let's be honest, I ain't sparing the ride. A lot of non-American blacks have a just strange, wild hair up their ass about black Americans. And he got up there and said what he really felt. The fact that they lost, nobody was jumping on Angel Reese on the fact that they lost. When she talked about the death threats she received and how she was so sexualized and things like that, that's what she was hurt about. Not the fact that they lost the game. They lost the game. Good players cry all the time when they lose the game. But Emmanuel Acho, and he's already said the vitriol that he has towards black Americans, he got up there and showed his natural damn behind. Calling her Courage the Cowardly Dog and all that. He knew what he meant by that. His behind just got called out. But you fast forward to today's game. I've heard the chatter before the game. I didn't think that call that UConn got called on against him, that foul was a good call at the end of that game. But Iowa won the game, and that's what it was. It's unfortunate that this game came down to black versus white again. 2 years in a row. I'm just honest enough to say it. A lot of people that wasn't South Carolina fans rooted for them because they represented the black versus white. It's a damn shame that we as Americans still haven't learned how to put our hatred for each other on the side for the betterment of a good time. And I'm going to be honest with you. I rooted for South Carolina because of what I have been hearing. For those of you who don't know, last year, the University of Iowa was hit with about a $4.6 million settlement in which it had to repay present and former black players for the discrimination that they faced by the team athletic department. How a lot of them, their hairstyles prevented them from being on the field. How the coaches went out of the way to not give them playing time, to get other people on the field playing time, and a chance at the the NFL and things like that. You guys can go and look it up. They were just hit with a judgment. I've been living up here 14 years, and this is a 2A channel, and I'm just going off the realms about this. If this was another channel like I used to have some years back, I'll just throw it out there. I had some threats sent to me because I talked on YouTube some years back. I had a History Channel about the Homestead Act. And I showed proof of the Homestead Act and how the Homestead Act benefited a particular group of people so much to the point I had death threats sent at me. The only reason I terminated that channel was the safety of my family. If I was a single guy, I would have kept going. So I know what it's like. I live here. I'm not going to tell you that I go out in public and people are always harassing me and what have you. But what I'm telling you is the sentiment here exists. Since I've been living here, I've had people that I've met that have asked me when they knew I was from New Orleans. The first thing came out of their mouth, well, I want to ask you a question. And they brought up racism. Is it as bad here as it is in the South? And I'll tell you, it's worse. It's worse here. And it's worse because they pretend like it don't exist. But it's economical here. It is hard here when you have a job to become a supervisor of any kind of means. And when you become one, you are a target. The same people who will show you their mixed children to go in the office and tell those people, they refuse to answer to you. If you become the supervisor, they'll quit. I know this because it happened to me. People that smiled with me on the job every day went in the office and said, if he becomes a supervisor, I'm going to quit because I don't want him to be my supervisor. All on my skin color. I want no sympathy. I'm just throwing it out there. That unfortunately, 2 years in a row, the fucking national championship game for women's college basketball was ruined by the racial undertone. This country is just what it is. Those of us that love each other and respect each other as people are going to get along. Those of us who feel like this, we're going to live a color-coded life, well, it's just going to be what it is. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to jump off here. American hate ruined the females' national championship game last year and this year. The consequences of American hate has showed up on everybody's door now. We as American citizens have become the target of our government. We are having people come from foreign countries. We don't know what their thought is. All they know is that Americans, black, white, Hispanic, and all, if we were already Americans when they got here, we're the enemy. You don't believe me? Look at the squatting going on around the country. They don't care if the owner is black, white, Hispanic, age, whatever. It's owned by America and we're going to try and take it. This country can't move forward because it refuses to acknowledge it was built on hate and that this country still operates on hate. And until we address this, times when we should be just allowed to soak in the moment for what it is always going to be ruined by American hate. And we're going to have to choose along racial lines. Even in sports. And that's a damn shame. Reporting from Ground Zero, the state of Iowa, where people were giving me a dirty look because I was rooting for South Carolina while we was watching the game. Hit me in the comment section and let me know what you think. Until next time, stay safe, stay on. American hate is just destroying everything people working hard for. Stay on high alert.